Grace and Lace, made with his grace and a little lace. Take us back to the beginning. How did Grace and Lace even get started?
Well, I call Grace and Lace my accidental company because I didn't start out with intention to start a business. I've always been a do-it-yourself type of person. I've always enjoyed working with my hands. I've always enjoyed creating. And I think that love really started actually when I was in the hospital with Hallie on bed rest because I couldn't walk, I couldn't get up, I couldn't even sit up. And so there I was laying on my back for weeks and weeks and weeks with nothing to do. And I'm not a type of person who would just watch TV. So I picked up knitting and crocheting and right there on the hospital bed. And that's where I really learned my love for creating. So I had I wanted to make a pair of boot socks for myself. I wanted lace on them and I wanted them sticking out of the top of my tall boots. And I just could see it in my mind and figured I needed to find a way to make them. So I spent
because they
5
weren't
hours.
out there.
No, they didn't exist.
There
was
was
just
nothing
something in my
online.
head that I thought this would look so cute. And so I spent 7 hours on my sewing machine and lots of frustration trying to make this pair of socks I saw in my mind.
Yep.
And when they were finally done, I was like, well, I have to wear them because I spent so much time. And I wanted to. They were cute. And I'd wear them, and everywhere I wore them, people would stop and ask me where I got them. And before we knew it, a business was born.
October 31st, 2011, you placed the boot socks up for sale on Etsy. When you checked on the listing again, you found hundreds and hundreds of orders, but there was only one you, Melissa. What did you do?
So I had started, following the bed rest and then, losing Hallie. I'll never forget the nurse, when they were rolling me out after we lost her to the car, she had said, don't stop creating. Because she had come into the room, and I was always making something, knitting something, crocheting something. In fact, I was making 2 baby blankets for friends that were having twins. And, those words were so powerful because it spoke into existence what had started there on that hospital bed. And for me, I found so much healing after losing Hallie by continuing to knit and quilt and make baby blankets that I found this joy. Although we had lost her, I found purpose in creating. And I would have never thought that a love stemmed from such a tragedy, to something I really enjoyed that now has turned into this massive company.
Yeah, and the crazy thing when I thought about this was you put them on Etsy, they sold instantly. You were like, oh my gosh, they're gone.
It's sold.
And you didn't know enough about Etsy at that point to turn the listing off. So we didn't think a thing of it. And 2 days later, you look at it, and we've got 400 plus sales on a pair of socks that you're never going to make again, according to what you said.
Exactly.
And people that had paid. And I was thinking, if you did know how to operate Etsy at that point and you turned it off, would Grace and Lace even exist today? And I don't know. It's just, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, they just went. I took a selfie of my legs, stood against the wall with good lighting, put my socks on, put my boots down on, bent over with a camera, snapped a picture, and the rest is history.
I think the point is, if you know it all and have it all together and do it like the book, maybe it doesn't work out. Because it may not have worked out for Grace and Lace. I mean, if the listing was off, we wouldn't have known that there was this demand out there.
There was not much interest.
So yeah, sometimes it's good to not know.
You got offers from all but one of the sharks. Mark, Kevin, and Robert started grilling you. How did you feel? What were you thinking?
What were you thinking when we were getting grilled? I mean, Kevin didn't grill us. He was super nice, regardless of what you saw. He was really pretty quiet. He didn't say a whole lot, and what he did say was very complimentary. Lori upset me, and I think you too.
I was surprised by Lori. I thought she would have been a big fan. And so she was very skeptical the whole time. She thought it was too good to be true. And so that shocked me because I would have thought she would have been a really good partner.
Now, Kevin and Mark did grill us for a little bit. I think how it felt was just stand your ground, just weather the storm, stick to the plan. The plan was Barbara, and let's see how this turns out. After 30 minutes, 40 minutes, it became a little nerve-wracking. So the confidence that I had in the very beginning started to wane a little bit. But closer to the end, it did come back. So it felt okay.
The episode airs and everyone's celebrating, but everything doesn't always go as smoothly as planned. What are a few instances that stood out to you?
Yes, we're celebrating. We knew that the filming went really well. On one hand, there's another part of that story which we were a little bit sad about. But as far as what we wanted, and from a business perspective, things went amazing. We had no idea what they were going to show. Mm-hmm. So when we had the big party and everyone's celebrating and cheering, and I was on cloud 9, excited. But then I heard our website went down. And you gotta be kidding me. Do you remember that? Hearing that the website went down?
I don't remember hearing that. I remember still being in shock after watching it live, going, they didn't share, they didn't share everything. They cut my pitch. They didn't. I wasn't prepared for, yes, I knew we were in there an hour and a half. I knew they got to pick and choose what happened in that hour and a half, what they were going to show. Mm-hmm. You know that. You know you're signing that away, the rights to that. But I didn't realize they were formulating it into their own story. And so for me, I think after seeing it, I was still a little bit shocked of did I say that? I didn't say that. Or I didn't say that then. Or what about our story? What about, the story of Hallie? And I think I was mostly in shock and just not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
The next day, didn't they tell us we could expect 10,000 orders or something like that?
Barbara told us to expect a total of 10,000 orders. Because you get more orders than just the airing. It happened, several days go by and you're still getting orders.
Yeah. And
Barbara said, based on experience and other companies like you guys, you could probably expect 10,000 total orders.
We got that in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So
we had 150,000 total orders. And a warehouse because we had 54,000 items. I remember that.
Yeah.
And we sold 150,000. We had 150,000 orders, which meant we sold out literally everything. We've never had a warehouse that went from what we thought was full to literally nothing in it, not one thing, and all these back orders. And, oh my goodness! But I think you weren't told about the website because I think the people that knew about it were afraid to tell you.
Maybe I blocked it from my memory because I don't remember that. I remember being in shock. I remember thinking, oh man, if we get 10,000 orders over the next few days, that'll be awesome.
Thought that'd be amazing.
I do remember Chris watching, being in the back with his computer, mm-hmm. and he was like, we have a lot of orders, a lot more than you thought we were going to have.
Obviously, we created a lot of revenue that night. The business did better than we could have ever imagined. Mm-hmm. And one of our credit cards that we were paying that event that night didn't go through. Oh. And I don't remember exactly. There was some miscommunication. The credit card freaked out because they saw all the money coming in so fast, and they thought it was fraud. Oh yeah, they shut us down.
They shut it down because they're like, whoa, something's happening. The bank account is just soaring, and they thought it was some sort of fraud or something.
Yep. Yeah, so we're celebrating. It was crazy. It was a crazy night. But I go to pay for it, and they wouldn't accept the card. And I was like, that's weird. And then, because we have multiple company cards, so I got someone else's. Wouldn't accept it. And I'm like, what's going on? And I had to call Capital One and figure out what the heck was going on. Why, we had money. I know we had money. I know that we weren't maxed out.
No. They freaked out. They saw the surge of funds and thought it was sinking.
That's funny to remember.
Why Barbara?
Why Barbara? So what am I doing? I'm on my knees. I'm praying. And I'm just, every single day I'm praying, God, who do we partner with, or do we partner with anyone? Like, I just gave it to him and was saying, whatever you've got, I'm totally cool with it. Whether we get a partner or not, I'm fine with it because I trust God. And so every time I prayed for 2 months solid, literally every single time, I would go through the names. Are we supposed to partner with Mark? Is it a yes? Is it a no? Are we to partner with Lori? Is it a yes? Is it a no? Every time I hit Barbara's name, I felt peace in my heart. And I felt as though that was God's way of saying that she's got to be involved with this. Because a lot of times, hearing the voice of God is simply, it's like a red light or a green light within your heart. If you really quiet down, and I just felt like every time Barbara's name came up in prayer, it was a green light, there was peace, it felt right. So after 2 months of it, I told Melissa, here's the game plan.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. When we say, like, why Barbara, I think it comes down to, really, if we are going to give away a huge portion of our company where we could have that ourselves and keep that of ourselves, like, it better be the right person.
Yes.
Like, we're not taking this lightly. And the fact that Rick studied the Sharks, he studied their deals, he read their books, like we were taking this, like, if we're going to give them a portion of our business, we want to make sure we're partnering with someone who's meant to be and will be a good partner for us. And so ultimately, when we look back and look at the other Sharks, and yes, I was disappointed for a time that it wasn't Lori and that Lori didn't make us an offer. Like, now looking back, this many years, where are we, 8 years later? 8 years later?
Yeah. 2013 is when I filmed, so yeah.
So here we are.
You got it right on the numbers. That's nice.
Here we are 8 years later, and I look back and I'm like, you know what? It truly was meant to be. I can't see us partnering with anyone else. Like, Barbara's really been the perfect partner for us, and that's made all the difference.
You are also giving back. How did that initiative start?
That's yours.
So I come from a entrepreneurial family. My mom's side, my dad's side, my dad owns his own business. My mom's siblings, all her brothers and sisters, I come from a very entrepreneurial background. And what's so funny is I'll never forget my mom, actually it might have been my aunt, saying, if anyone is going to be successful, it's probably going to be Melissa because she cares the least.
That's true. It was your aunt that said that.
It was my aunt.
Yep.
When we started this accidental company and money started coming in, I need to do something.
She still to this day could care less about the money.
Financial.
Because I asked her at one point, and I want you to get back to this, I asked her if someone approached us and said, we will give you $1 billion for your company, would you take it? And she looked at me like I was a complete moron. And she was offended. She's like, no, like there's no amount of money, because she doesn't care. It's never been about money for her at all.
So when we realized we have a business, we have a successful business, we have profits coming in, I knew instantly I needed to tie it to something I was passionate about. And for me, I had spent all these years overseas on mission trips as a teenager and in my 20s, and nothing had really pricked my heart more than seeing the impact of what Western civilization and the things that we have can do in these third world poverty countries. And so when I was in India, when I was 18, I worked in a Mother Teresa home, and I had never seen poverty to that level before. So I had written in my journal then, as an 18-year-old, that I need to do something more. And looking back, I would have thought that meant, I'll come back in a couple of years, or after college, I'll stay here for a year or something like that. Never in a million years would I have thought that God would give me a business making socks that would be able to fund helping the poorest of poor. And so basically all that kind of came together of like, oh my gosh, when I was in India, I could build orphanages with this money that we have now. We could really be making a difference. We could save people's lives, essentially. And so as quickly as that kind of formed, I was like, we need to do something. And that's when we tied it into building orphanages in India.
Which Angel House came about in 2012, and you knew
The owner of
the
Angel
owner
House.
that started it.
Yeah, so friends of mine were starting a organization called Angel House, where they were looking for people to fund, and they would do the building of the actual orphanages. I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I was meant to do, and how I was, called to make a difference. And so right away I was like, this is what the company is supposed to do. We're supposed to fund and build and rescue orphans from the streets with profits.
Melissa came to me with the idea and told me about it and her connection, and I absolutely loved it. It felt so good on a heart level that this is what we're going to do, and that the daughter that we lost would not be in vain at all. Matter of fact, that loss will now help who knows how many other people. So it was amazing how that came together, how God was orchestrating that and weaving that story together of here's people that are doing something that's near and dear to Melissa's heart. And now we have the money to fund that. That's what they needed. They needed the funding. But we're not going to go over and build. We don't have time to do that with building a company and raising a family. So it was the perfect match. Again, it's the story that God's writing, that he continues to write. And it's been one of the coolest things just to help kids, because we both have a soft spot for kids that don't have what we have in this country. So to be able to put funds toward a cause that goes so far and literally saves people's lives is one of the coolest missions that we've got.
And that's why I love even looking behind us at pictures here. Like, that's the heartbeat. Like, that's the real reason. And, I can remember that moment. I can remember bringing socks with, and giving them, putting them on the feet of kids who had never worn socks before. In fact, this next picture, like, everyone's barefoot. They didn't have socks or shoes or anything. And to know that, because of this business and because of its profits and being successful, we're able to help a lot of people.
Yeah, we take it for granted that we have socks in this country. And to go there and see, that is a absolute luxury. Like, the kids, they didn't have socks. They're just running around barefoot. It's a different world. But yeah, to be able to partner with God to build something that she loves. I mean, you might love it a little too much sometimes. But it's just fun to see how amazing she is, how much she comes alive, and then the impact that we can have throughout the world. And it's not that we just give to India, because we've kind of been harped on about that before. We give a lot here in this country, but what's gotten the media attention is what we've done overseas. But it's fun to give and just watch God bring it back more and more.
At the time of this episode airing, Grace and Lace sales were over $1 million. What are the sales like now, and how has the company gone from boot socks to a full line of women's apparel?
I mean, I can't speak for the numbers.
That would be
I don't know
best.
anything about the numbers. Thank the Lord, because I would mess those up bad. But I can speak to the design side. So, when we talked about in the beginning that I really just had learned that I love to create, I love to work with my hands. I love to see a vision of nothing come to something, become something. And when I sold that first pair, I was like, now what? Like, Rick even said to me, he said, you can either refund all these people and tell them you only have one pair and 399 people are going to be really upset and give their money back, or we can figure out how to make this happen. And so those were the beginning steps of me learning, okay, well, I know how to make it. I can teach others how to make it. I can create a pattern. And so then my mind just kept snowballing of like, sweet, if they love those socks, they'll probably love these type of socks. And I want to put some buttons on them. And I want to make them look like this. And I want to make a leg warmer. Like it just all shifted into this world of possibility for me. And so now, literally, I just do the same thing that I did then. Is I stand in my closet and I'm like, oh, what do I wish I had? What's a clothing that, what's something I can create, or what's a problem that I have with my current, piece of clothing that I can make and create and make better or make softer. It's been a huge thing. So it's, it's just unleashed this world of opportunity for me to create whatever my mind, heart desires.
And what's interesting about this question is, to address the numbers, how do you go from where we were to where we are now? I actually told Mr. Wonderful when we filmed. It wasn't part of the show, but he told us, do you guys have patents? Do you have it protected? And you're not able to patent clothing. And I told him, no, we don't, but it doesn't matter because no one will be able to keep up with what's in her head. They'll always be trying to catch up, and by then it's too late because we're on to the next thing. And they loved that answer. And it's true. In my wife, before we even got married, I saw this tremendous leader and just a phenomenal business mind, which excited me because I always dreamed of having a business with my wife. Now, sometimes that dream is not necessarily a dream. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a nightmare, but not all the time. But yeah, I was very excited, obviously, to marry her. I had no clue that all this was coming. I had no idea that we would have a multi-million-dollar business. And how we went from basically $1 million in our first calendar year to now we're approaching close to 100 million in sales in a 10-year period is beyond me. It's God first and foremost, and it's having a lot of good people around. And that's another thing that I told the Sharks. I said, one of our strategies is, yes, we have vision, yes, we have ideas, but we want to surround ourselves with people that are a lot smarter than us. And I think Mark Cuban even laughed, and he's like, that's exactly what I've always done. But I think he's probably one of the smartest people in the room. But yeah, just surround yourself with really good people, give them good work, honest work, and go build together. And that's where we currently are. Where we go, I don't know. I don't know what God's got next. I hope we double. I hope we triple. But the story is still being written, so you'll have to tune back in to see where we're at 5-10 years from now.